Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and we're back this week with another look at some G.I. Joe ephemera. This time, we're talking about the G.I. Joe magazine from the winter of 1987. Welcome back, all you listeners, and if you're new to the show, this is the podcast where I cover all the old school G.I. Joe ephemera. We've covered all the episodes of the Sunbow cartoon. We've covered the DIC cartoon, every issue of the G.I. Joe Real American comic book, and we've been working our way through some how to draw issues. We're going to get back to those. Got a couple things left to finish there. We're doing that in conjunction with our YouTube page. Remember to check out the Big Cobra Convergence episode that we did a couple weeks back. I did a cover recreation for G.I. Joe number 31, and I am giving that away. All you gotta do is reach out and tag me, send me an email to joeonjoepod@gmail.com, or hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at joeonjoepod. If you want to be in the running to win that original artwork, happy to send it to you. I think it's a lot of fun. And you can check out us out on our Patreon page, patreon.com/joeonjoepod. Help support the show that way. And, while you're on the internet and if you want to rate and review, that'd be great. But if also you want to send over some love to our great sponsors, the Movies and a Meal podcast, they're helping keep the show alive. They're out there every week talking movies, talking meals. Last week, I saw two movies, one really good, one not so good. I will start with the not so good first. Borderlands is a real disappointment. I didn't have high hopes for it, but I like the games, and I pretty much like the cast that's in it. And boy, was it a kind of a hot mess of a movie. But then it was buttressed by Alien, Romulus. That was the goods, everybody. If you love Alien and any of those movies, Prometheus, Alien, all that stuff, you're going to love Romulus. It's kind of a greatest hits and awesome. I really enjoyed it. Lots of great scares. Lots of world building and tying a lot of things together to go forward for the franchise, things like that. So I dug it, man. I dug it. So give Movies and a Meal podcast a listen and see what they thought of Aliens Romulus and see how they ignored Borderlands just like everyone else did. I heard it's going to be on VOD or streaming within like literally the next 2 weeks. That's insane. Anyway, we're talking G.I. Joe. And we're talking the G.I. Joe magazine. Now we're getting into the second issue of this, and this is from winter of 1987. The previous one was winter of 85, so they took a 2-year hiatus. They took their time getting to the second issues, is what we're saying. And it shows in a not in a bad way, but in a way of like it's a different package. A lot of the same stuff's in there, certainly, but it's a tighter package. It's a smaller package. It's not as jam-packed. The cover looks more like a traditional magazine layout cover. I think the first issue cover really looked more like a sticker book, like that kind of a feel. This really streams magazine. The word magazine is bigger on the page, things like that. So with all that though, and real quick, if you do want to follow along and you don't happen to have this issue, please visit our friends over at 3djoes.com. Check this out. They have full high-res scans of these. You can follow page by page, panel by panel, like we're going to do today. There is no new comic book in it, though, which is disappointing. Last time we got a new actual comic book adventure from Larry Hama. This time it is a prose story, which we're going to read through. We're going to do that. We're going to wrap this up with the prose story. It's just a quick one. But it's written by Stein, who did the R.L. Stein stuff, who did a lot of the books and the Choose Your Own Adventure G.I. Joe stuff. So there's a good chance that it's going to be a great story, is what I'm saying. It's not completely out of the blue. Cover is interesting because they took 2 years to do it, and there are Cobra Vipers on the front. It's a dude in some swamp water, and he's there's a snake coming over his shoulder. He's got a radio receiver in his hand. He's escaping these Cobra Vipers. The Vipers are specifically looking in the different direction, right? So they're looking for him, but he's making his getaway, and he's got a patch on that says G.I. Joe. But I gotta tell you, I have no idea who this is. It's not identifiable who this Joe is. I don't know if this is supposed to be Joe Colton, if this is supposed to be. He's got a green shirt look to him for sure. He's got a bandolier sash, kind of like Duke, but his colors are reversed. He got a green shirt with the sash is tan, and it's a different sash than Duke. It's definitely not Duke. It has a brown haircut with like a wavy hairstyle, so that's not Duke. I don't know who this is, and I hate to, I hate to come at you with a negative answer there. I have no idea who's on the cover. It's a fun cover. It's a fine cover, but I wouldn't say it's a great cover to relaunch the magazine because it absolutely does not have a recognizable G.I. Joe on there. The only thing I can think of is that this was for that year's character action figures. Maybe this was supposed to be a planned figure, and they were trying to tie that in. Maybe he was supposed to be. If he is someone that I'm just way overlooking, please correct me. But like I said, this doesn't look like any Joe that I can instantly place. They're all so recognizable. I don't know who this is. So certainly well rendered cover, but not eye catching in that regard. I really like that character. I got to get to it. And the inside, we've got a commercial for HBO Canon Video to join their kids video club, where you can get things like Fraggles and Paddington Bear, and you can save $1 if you're ordering their VHS tapes. So you get stuff like Danger Mouse, Brain Games, The Pied Piper, Fat Albert, and the Cosby Kids. Across from that is the content page. So in this whole issue, we're just going to kind of blow through some of the articles they talk about. They got a great article on Star Trek, the Voyage Home. Was that Star Trek 4, where they come and they get the space whales. So there's a great article on that. That's really exciting. Directed by Mr. Spock himself. The voice was the voice of Megatron's Galvatron. We've got the story called South American Sleepover that we're going to read by the end of this episode of Joe on Joe. There is a cool G.I. Joe poster in there. And we've got an article about Joe Namath. I'm presuming this is before he wanted to kiss Susie Colbert. And then we've got some news departments like they do in all these magazines. So we're going to flip through those. There's some code breakers, some, trivia, puzzles, things like that. And, so this is very much highlights. If you guys are familiar with highlights, this is very much the highlights version of a G.I. Joe magazine, as was the previous issue for sure. But this one's streamed down. It's a few pages less. The poster that I can see is, isn't it just? Oh no, it's the same size. Yeah, it's the same size, but I can't open the whole thing, but it's roadblocks swinging over some jungle vines, and looks like some other 87 Joes. It's hard to, like I said, I'm not opening it. It's hard to see exactly who's in there. Oh, Sergeant Slaughter's in there. Yeah, Beachhead, Slaughter. There's some Cobra Eels. That's a cool poster. So we got a little welcome back message from Hawk to all the G.I. Joe fans. He says, I'd like to welcome you to G.I. Joe magazine. So that makes me think they're kind of treating this as a reboot. Kind of a reboot versus the other magazine that was 2 years earlier. That's what this feels like. We've also got a neat thing. It's got poster information, which is a note to the adult to remove the poster, open the magazine to the center, take the flat object like a letter opener and slip it under the staples, gently pull it out. I don't recall that being in the other issue, which makes me think they got some complaints from parents who were dealing with torn posters. So that's very fun, very funny. We've also got an ad for what probably was an awesome Christmas present for a lot of people. I don't remember these packages at all, but Family Home Entertainment bundled a bunch of their VHS tapes, and it looks like they were bundling them in holiday wrap boxes, so you can just buy them and give them for Christmas or Hanukkah or what have you. So Thundercats, you get 2 VHS tapes, Spitting Image and Pumra episodes. The Transformers, you get Divide and Conquer, and you get Fire on the Mountain. And G.I. Joe, of course, you get The Funhouse and Jungle Trap, 2 fabulous episodes. So, it's all mocked up, so it's not like real photos of them, but it looks like there's like winter frost on them and wrapping paper around them. So that's kind of neat. I don't remember ever seeing these. I wonder if anyone out there, if you ever saw these 2-packs, these FHE. It says no parts, no batteries, no wrapping, no assembling, just open and enjoy. So you could buy them and hand them right to your kid and sit them in front of the TV for a couple hours. In the mail call, we got letters from Jim Anderson out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Andy Benedetto from Rochester, New York, and Ronald White from Oakland, California, plus an awesome drawing of Bazooka from Richard Pittore from Dobbs Ferry, New York. So if you're out there, or if you know any of these gentlemen, holler, say hello. They do give the address to send them letters, and there's a lot less letters in this. So again, with that 2 years off, I have a feeling they prepped the other one from the fan club, and then this one, although it says people saying they're looking forward to G.I. Joe magazine, so maybe more fan club prepping. Commercial for Tang, another commercial. So now we've got some on target. This is kind of like the entertainment news section. And they're talking about the big King Kong sequel called King Kong Lives. And if you remember, King Kong Lives is the one where he got a fake heart implanted in him, and that's how he survived. Remember, he fell off a building, fell off the Empire State. Well, actually, in this one, wasn't it the World Trade Center? I think he fell off of. But he fell off the buildings, and he died that way. But a fake heart brings him back to life. Remember that. So don't worry about any skull fractures. Get you a fake heart, and it'll do it. There's also an advertisement for some books called about sports books, Hockey Machine, Inside Pro Football 1986, things like that. On the next page, they talk about an exciting new sport called Moto Ball. It's soccer played on wheels. So you're playing polo, but you're all riding dirt bikes or drag racing bikes. That's one, it's fun. Two, it feels like that. What's the PlayStation game where it's like soccer with cars? Well, I'm blanking on that. That game came out a few years ago, but it's been around. Yeah, so that's fun. Motorball didn't seem to take off. And then we get a guide to new movies that are coming up. Ernie Reyes Jr. is back in the TV show Sidekicks. That's a new show on ABC Thursday nights. I do remember that show. Owl TV is about some science show. Do not recall that at all. And this was funny. There's a description of a movie, and they're calling it. Well, actually, they don't say the name of it, but they say Howie Mandel stars as Bobo in a new comedy from MGM. They technically don't give it a name. This is the movie Walk Like a Man, where Howie Mandel was raised by wolves, and Christopher Lloyd and Cloris Leachman are involved, and he inherits a bunch of money, and they try to steal his inheritance from him, and he acts like a dog, or a wolf rather, because he was raised by wolves. So we're getting teased from that here in G.I. Joe magazine. Got some advertisements. We got a couple pages on skiing, the hot winter excitement of skiing. Remember we talked about the Olympics last time. An article, here we go with I left my Vulcan in San Francisco, and it's teasers for all you Star Trek fans with a little retrospective on the classic stuff. There's some old school photos. There's photos from the first movie. I do love this one with the whales. It was written by Claire Poole. She talks about the history of Star Trek, how it wasn't a success, things like that. And this is the poster. The Star Trek article is the poster. So if you wanted to pull the poster out and put it in a double back, you can also read about Star Trek anytime you want. We get a subscription from Muppet Magazine. A couple pages on Joe Namath. A lot of pages on Joe Namath, actually. Gridiron Greats in 1986. Here's some NFL stars worth watching. Will any of them be doing a new Super Bowl shuffle this January? We got a little bit about Howie Long. Man with or without sunglasses, quarterback Jim McMahon, go Bears, looks good to Bear fans. Last year, McMahon was second in the NFL in passing, but first in outrageousness. We're talking about James Lofton, Kenny Easley, Eric Dickerson, the great Eric Dickerson, Joe Montana, and this is important for you Bears fans, or for Bears fans, for you G.I. Joe fans. As the Chicago Bears marched towards the Super Bowl last year, defensive end William the Refrigerator Perry captured everyone's attention, not only with his touchdowns, but also with his enormous size, 325 pounds. I was big when I was little, Perry says. Of course, we're going to talk about William Refrigerator Perry, and that's not the last time we're going to talk about William Refrigerator Perry. So we've got some code breakers, and this is a fun game for G.I. Joe fans. It's 20 Joes have gone on a scouting mission in the Brazilian jungle. You're in charge. It's up to you to locate them. The names are up, down, backwards, forwards, diagonal, one of those things, and you got to find people such as Leatherneck, Lifeline, Lady J, Quick Kick, Hawk, Lowlight, Airtight, Barbecue. It's basically the 87 lineup they've hidden in this puzzle, so that's fun. There's a Cobra Jumble. 4 Cobras were sent out to spy on the Joe team headquarters and discover the members of the team. Got to unscramble these letters. Things like NADZRA, Xandar, Tomax, Serpentor, and ZEZURB. What is that? Berzerb? ZEZ? Berzerb? Who would that be? ZEB? Seriously, I'm doing this in real time. Oh, Buzzer. Jesus. Yeah, of course, Buzzer. And Zorana. Take the circled letters from above and you unscramble and find Zorana. See? This goes back to I always have trouble identifying the Dreadnoughts. Some quizzes about Star Trek. An article about being a private eye. Referencing Thomas Magnum and Jessica Fletcher. David Addison from Moonlighting. And we talked to a gentleman by the name of Paul Ford, who's been a private investigator for about 20 years. He used to be a policeman in Covina, California. And he was a security officer in Oregon and Los Angeles. And now they're talking about how he became a PI. And now it's 2 pages left. Then we're going to get into the story. It's what you came for. There's some advertisements that I look at and I go, oh, that would have been neat to get. That would have been cool to get. This is one that I absolutely am like, wow, why didn't I get this? And I had this magazine when I was a kid. I don't know why I wouldn't have gotten this. This is awesome. They're back for one final mission. Many of you might be aware of this. I honestly don't remember seeing this ad. For serious G.I. Joe collectors only. This would have been 1987, right? The G.I. Joe adventure began with a few good men who made G.I. Joe what it is today. They're the original Mobile Strike Force team. Now you can own the original adventure team along with Major Blood and the Cobra officer. But you only have until this mission is completed to get them. They won't be available anywhere else or at any other time. If you want them assigned to your collection, act now. Get all 10 figures with original dossiers, accessories, and a carrying case specifically designed to store all of your G.I. Joe and Cobra paraphernalia for only $25. Purchased individually, these figures would cost you over $35 if you could even find them. So act now before it's too late. And that's what it is, guys. It is overstock that they were getting rid of all these OG Joes. And I don't know if they're swivel arm or straight arm, so bear with me there. I'm sure someone listening has actually gotten that. Actually did do this back in the day, so I don't know what they sent, but this is the mail order, guys. And they came with their probably the redback file cards, I imagine. So you would get for $25, you'd get Stalker, Zap, Doc, Grunt, Airborne, Short Fuse, Flash, and Rock and Roll, and Major Blood, and a Cobra officer. Literally all the figures I needed. I think of those guys, I think I had Grunt and Rock and Roll. And maybe I had Zap at that point. That's it. I never had a Blood. I had a Cobra. I think I might have had a Cobra officer. But yeah, that's a great deal. And it comes in that awesome, like, hard plastic, square-bound carry case, the one that actually the 3D Joe's Omnibus book looks like. Is this the only way you got that carry case? That's what I don't know. I don't know. Is this the only way that carry case was distributed? Or could you have purchased the carry case off the shelf solo? Again, something I never had. I don't know the answers to that. But yeah, dude, for $25 plus $1.50 postage and handling, that's awesome. 100% awesome. So if anyone did that, just hit me up at social, and make me jealous, because that's really cool. And now we're going to get to the back page of this magazine. And this is the real news, everybody. We got the G.I. Joe Fridge action figure. The Fridge has joined the G.I. Joe team. The Fridge is now a new member of the Joe team. Now you can get a Fridge action figure with an autographed bio card for free. Just collect 5 special Fridge proof of purchase certificates from inside specially marked G.I. Joe packages. Then send them to G.I. Joe headquarters, and the Joe team will send you your Fridge action figure for free. You can also call the Fridge's 900 line. Now, before I started recording, I spent about 10 minutes on Google trying to find a good 1-900 identifying website that I don't have to pay for. I was going to just straight up call it on my phone, but I was like, I don't know what charges could accrue with a 900 number. If it was an 800 number, absolutely would have called it. But they give a 900 number. I wonder what number it is today. Who knows what it could be. Back in the day, though, it was 50 cents. That's kind of a lot of money for a phone call. But you call in any Saturday from January 3rd until June 27th, 1987, and he'll answer, and he'll give you a special combat skill. Know the combat skill, and it's worth 1 free Fridge proof of purchase certificate. Or you can send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Fridge. Now, that self-addressed envelope, that's to get around the contest rules, so it's not like you have to give them money to enter. So you could technically get it for 50 cents and just have 4 of the Fridge bios. I never got the Fridge as a kid. I have 2 Fridges, one that's all busted up that he actually sits on my desk right here with me. He's missing a right arm. He was wounded in combat. He's missing it at the elbow. And then I have a nicer one that I purchased a while ago. I know they're actually shooting up in value. I don't have his file card, so I need to get my hands on his file card. I don't know that I've ever seen that in the wild. So, but yeah, it's Fridge. This is the era of Fridge, man. I wish, I know that he's not, and I'm a big Bears fan, I grew up in Chicago, so I don't think he's doing very well. I got nothing but love for him. And I wish that his family would embrace G.I. Joe like Sergeant Slaughter seems to be doing. And that could be a matter of money. I don't know. I'm not ascribing anything to anyone, but that would be great. Just putting this out there into the world. I would love to see a resurgence of Fridge love as a Bear fan and as a G.I. Joe fan, because I think the G.I. Joe community is so great with honoring, people like Sarge and Larry and, the real people, and Kurt Bozigian and the real people who actually made this stuff and were involved in this, who are still living. This community really does a wonderful job with it. And I would love for us to embrace the Fridge like that. But I think that has to come from his family to be open to embrace it. And I don't know if they are or they aren't. I just know that there's not a lot of Fridge stuff out there, and there so could be. I would absolutely I would buy a Fridge classified figure for every Bear fan friend of mine, and I'm not even kidding you. All of my friends would get Refrigerator Perry Bears action figures. That is an absolute truth. To think of how much, oh man, we could do it. So, putting that out there. If anyone's listening, anyone from Hasbro's listening, or if no one's listening, if I'm just speaking into the void and this is just good vibes, man, I'd love to get some Fridge stuff going. Now, let's do this. The South American sleepover. Cobra's plan to steal a coffee field will be deadly to the last drop unless Flint and the Joe team can stop them. Normally, I would sometimes dabble in voices. I don't know that that's going to happen here, but if I slip in and out of voices, you're welcome. There's a bug crawling on you, gung-ho, Airtight said. I've been watching it slide down your back like a dripping bead of sweat. It's a big red-shelled bug, about 2 inches long, almost big enough to drive a car. Gung-ho ignored Airtight's warning and kept talking. It's just like I told you guys yesterday. Everything about the jungles in Colombia is out of proportion. The air's too hot and wet. The mountains are too sheer. The jungles are too dense. And the mission is too costly, Quick Kick interrupted. Now that shut everybody up and got them thinking, how could things go so right and then go so wrong in just one day? Just one day before, the Joe team, Flint, Gung-ho, Airtight, Footloose, and Quick Kick, had landed in a Colombian mountain region, and they had moved in to stop Cobra's latest ruthless rampage of terror. It hadn't taken long to find out what Cobra planned to do. They were going to take over thousands of acres of land owned by Juan Cortina. Cortina was a coffee grower and one of the richest and most powerful men in Colombia. To wipe Cortina out, Cobra planned to poison his entire coffee crop. Then, when he was ruined, the snakes could take Cortina's land and use it for a new secret missile base. But the Joe team stopped that pronto. Before Cobra knew that they were there, the Joe team had surrounded their hideout and completely destroyed their stockpile of chemical poisons. That's when things started to go wrong. When the mission was over and they were getting out, the team had lost track of Flint. He was MIA, missing in action. It's funny, they capitalized the T in team. Like the team. Why don't we start tearing this mountain down and find him, Airtight said, still eyeing the bug on Gung Ho's back. Because Cobra's probably got him, Quick Kick said, and they'll kill him if they see us coming. Besides, that plan lacks subtlety. Well, so does a fly swatter, but it gets the job done, Gung Ho said. Just then, the red bug finally dropped off his leg and onto the ground. Gung Ho instantly squashed it with his boot. By the way, boys, he added, don't let one of those insects bite you unless you want to go home in a flag-draped box. Before the team could even pick up its gear and start walking, a small transport plane flew over the mountain plateau and began dropping its payload. Well, here comes the air backup Hawk promised us, Footloose said. First one parachute, then a dozen, spilled from the plane. But the backup troops were in the air only a second before Cobra troops on the plateau began firing machine guns at them. The Joe team watched the plane get away safely, but Cobra gunners ripped apart all of the parachutes and the jumpers. All those men, wasted, Gung Ho spat. So we just killed a bunch of green shirts, I think, what happened there, guys. That's a lot. And when Cobra finds out that there's nothing but department store dummies hanging on those parachutes, oh, asked and answered. They're going to be madder than a hen sitting on a baseball, Footloose laughed. Gung Ho sighed with relief. See, look at that. I jumped the gun. I assumed we had dead Joes on our hand. The dummy diversion worked. At least it distracted Cobra long enough for the team to get up the mountain on the open road without being noticed. But when they got to the plateau, it was deserted. The Cobra headquarters was empty. Flint! Gung Ho shouted at the top of his lungs. Flint, you son of a monkey's uncle, where are you? If he's with them, I can understand why he didn't leave us a note, a signal. I can't understand why he didn't leave us a note, a signal, a clue, or something, Footloose said. There's only one possible explanation, Quick Kick said, slamming his fist angrily on the table. We didn't find him in time. The snakes brainwashed him. That didn't mean the mission had to be scrubbed. The Joe team would get Flint back one way or the other, but now it had to be the other. Flint wouldn't come willingly. Not after Cobra had done their tap dance on his brain. He'd have to be dragged back kicking and screaming. Well, not if he's awake, Airtight said. What's that supposed to mean? Footloose asked. Nap gas, Airtight explained. That's what we call a new nerve gas. Knocks people out for 12 hours, then it disappears completely. No after effects. If we spray the whole mountain with it, we've got 12 hours to find Flint. There must be a flip side to this coin, or you would have mentioned it earlier, Quick Kick said. Well, it's a real unstable gas, Airtight said. If we take it up in a crop duster, maybe it'll behave, or maybe it'll explode on board, turning us into a living fireworks display. There's only one way to find out, Gung Ho said. The next thing the team knew, Gung Ho was shaking hands with a Colombian pilot, a crop duster on Juan Cortina's land, and borrowing the keys to his plane. Gung Ho got the rickety single-engine biplane off the ground, and then it was up to Airtight. He worked the sprayer, spreading the gas as the little plane zigzagged and looped around the mountain. Let's be very clear what's happening here. The Joes just commandeered a drug smuggling plane from a Colombian farmer, and they're going to use it to spread unsafe knockout gas, basically propofol, an entire mountain. Awesome. On the ground, Footloose and Quick Kick watched the plane, wearing gas masks. Footloose took that mask off a little bit, you know he did. But the Joe team members weren't the only people on the mountain watching the crop duster. Halfway down the mountain, deep in the jungle, the Baroness was leading her prisoner to his death. What's that crop duster doing? The Baroness asked Flint. More Joe tricks? Oh, Baroness, you know the Pentagon's budget, Flint said. They'd spend millions of bucks on weapons and aircraft. Do you think they'd use a crop duster on this mission? Okay, so I won't blast it out of the sky, the Baroness said. Let Juan Cortina spray his crops and smuggle his... No, just kidding. In just a little while, they'll be worthless to him. Just then, the plane passed over the Cobra entourage. Flint saw a light blue mist dropping from underneath the wings. Then he watched the Baroness stumble unsteadily on her legs. She yawned and lay down as Flint held his breath and stole a Cobra gas mask. A moment later, Airtight parachuted out of the plane. Then the pilot bailed out of the crop duster and went plummeting to the ground. That was gung-ho, Footloose said out loud. Did his parachute open? Neither Flint, who was watching from a great distance, nor the other members of the Joe team could see. All they did see was the small plane exploding in midair as the unstable gas finally blew its cool. Hours later, still wearing gas masks, the Joe team found airtight, but they still hadn't run to gung-ho or Flint or the Baroness on the dense mountainside. And time was running out. Footloose tapped airtight and pointed to his wrist as the team trudged through the thick foliage and vines. The whole mountain's been asleep for 10 hours, Airtight said. We've got to find Flint before they start to wake up. There's a plume of smoke, Quick Hick said, suddenly pointing to the sky just north of their position. When they reached the smoke, it was like walking into a scene from Sleeping Beauty. Cobra infantry, Cobra televipers, and even the Baroness were sound asleep on the ground. Only one man was still awake. Flint! Howdy, gents, Flint waved and shouted at them through his gas mask. You guys are real pros. You followed my instructions to the letter. Well, what instructions? Footloose and Airtight said together. Well, you finally came through with the nap gas, Flint said, just as I knew you would. You mean you planned this all along? Airtight sputtered. What was the only way to stop Cobra from ruining Juan Cortina's coffee crop? Flint explained. But I thought we already stopped them, Footloose said. Well, that's what we were supposed to think, Flint said. But when I destroyed the poison stockpile, I overheard the guards saying that there was a backup supply of poisons. I had to let them capture me so I could find out where the second stockpile was. The Baroness led me straight to the chemicals, but I needed you guys to put Cobra to sleep so I could destroy the poisons, which is exactly what I did while you've been looking for me. Oh, I get it, Quick Kick said. You knew if you made yourself hard to find, we'd risk using the nap gas. Right, Flint said. The team had a lot of questions for Flint, and quite frankly, so do I. And he promised to answer all of them over a good hot cup of coffee. But where's gung-ho? Flint said. Quick Kick shook his head. Well, he bailed out. I think we lost him, he said. Everyone was quiet for the next 15 miles as they made their way toward the place where gung-ho had touched down. And suddenly, something tapped Airtight on the shoulder, and he nearly jumped out of his skin. There's a bug crawling on you, said a familiar voice. Airtight turned around and came face to face with gung-ho, who was alive and laughing. All the others laughed too, except for Airtight. He looked at the red-shelled bug crawling on his bicep and felt like the mission was starting all over again, when it should be really coming to an end. Written by Megan Stein and H. William Stein, I believe. Isn't H. William Stein R.L. Stein, I think? So that's it, guys. That's it for G.I. Joe saves a bunch of cocaine growers in a South American sleepover? Because isn't that what we're doing here? I feel like this is the secret origin for the DEF. This is how, and Juan Cortina became Headman. This is the secret origin of both the DEF and Headman. Yeah, there's a lot of leaps that happen in this story, but you know what? It's super fun. It's super great. The magazine's good. I look forward to the next month. Hopefully a little more Joe-centric on the cover, which I have seen the cover, so I know it is. And we'll see what the inner story is. But it's a lot of fun. Hope you're enjoying the G.I. Joe magazine. If you've got your copy, take it out and read along with it. So appreciate everyone. And now you, Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.